And welcome to Informed. I'm Randy Taylor. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. That's what this show is about, to focus on bringing you experts to inform you on a wide range of topics from health to business, politics, relationships, and much more. On today's show, we're going to be exploring a new trend of the home workout revolution for people over 50. No, not a home gym, but with a personal trainer. As you know, we talk a great deal about health on this show, and that topic is so important for the 50 plus crowd. Joining us to shed light onto this is the founder of Gentle Motion, an in-home personal training company focusing on those 50 plus. Great pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for your time. Moshe Schwartz, welcome. Thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Randy. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you here. It's always I take credit for everything, but honestly, it's the producers who go out and find experts like you, and you're gracious enough to share your time, and I greatly appreciate that. Before we get to talking about this new trend, I've done this my whole life. I'm always fascinated to find out about the messenger before the message. There's almost always a story of how someone goes down a path to end up doing what they're doing. For you, is there a story?
Yeah, so I actually have a corporate background. I worked in the corporate world for about 5 years. I was miserable. I hated it. And about 15 years ago, I made the switch into this. And I bounced around a few different jobs, a few different gyms. And one day I found myself talking to one of my closest friends who unfortunately has fibromyalgia. If for people who don't know, it's a chronic pain condition that can be very debilitating. And she said to me that there's a real need for personal trainers who understand chronic pain, that all of her doctors tell her that she needs to exercise, but every trainer that she worked with was kind of this, drill sergeant boot camp instructor that would yell at her to do more. And then because of her condition, she literally wouldn't be able to get out of bed for 3 weeks. So she tells me there's a real need for people who understand chronic pain. So my original plan was to work with people who had chronic pain conditions. When I started marketing the website and the business Gentle Motion, what I found was that a lot of people over 50 were looking for a lot of the same things, that a lot of them had had bad experiences with personal trainers in the past. They weren't looking to be bodybuilders or bikini models or anything like that. Their goals were much more functional. They just kind of wanted to get through the day a little bit easier, manage some of their aches and pains, do some of the things that they love, like travel or golf or things like
Yeah.
that. And so it wasn't anything that I kind of deliberately sought into going into, but one thing led to the next, one step led to the next step. And, thank God, here I am, and I love it.
And ultimately that's the part that always fascinates me, is it's some way, going down that pathway, people end up discovering their purpose, and then it just changes everything and lights it up. In doing research into this, it appears that older people, I can vouch for that, have somewhat of an aversion to going to gyms. Why is that?
So I think there's a couple of different factors. Some of it is just kind of generic hesitations of going to the gym. If you're unfamiliar with any place, you're going to feel uncomfortable there. So if you are somebody who's just never really done an exercise program before, suddenly you walk into a gym, you're not familiar with the machines, you're not familiar with the exercises that you should be doing. And, in some cases, a sentiment I hear often is that you feel judged by the other members, which may or may not be the case, but that's the sentiment that a lot of people have shared. So there is this kind of generic feeling of I'm not comfortable in this unfamiliar place. If you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, on top of that, there's another layer, which is that, it just might be hard for you to get out. It might be a bit of an adventure for you to get your coat on and your boots. And, if you've got lots of layers, it can be a challenge if mobility is an issue for you. As we're talking, it's the middle of winter. There's lots of snow. There's lots of ice. And if you are vulnerable to slipping, if there's balance issues or
Yeah.
stability issues, that's just one more thing that you have to worry about. So, I have nothing against the gym. It can be a great place. It can be something that can be done on its own, or it can be something that can be done in conjunction with an at-home program also. But if you are looking for something, to be done at home, either, in combination with other programs or just something as a standalone thing, it can be helpful to know what options are out there, that you can get a very good workout in your home.
I've heard it said so many times that, for all of us, the first 50 years of our lives, we can, beat up our bodies and not take the best care of it. But the second 50, we have to, start taking better care of it. why do people need to focus on staying fit after 50?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I'm not quite at the 50-year mark. You might be able to speak for the second 50. But I like to use the analogy of the car, that, when you buy a new car, anybody can drive it out of the lot. The engine's going to be fine. It's going to be running smoothly unless you get sold a lemon. But generally speaking, you can drive a new car and you can enjoy it. But if you want that car to last 10, 15, 20 years, it's really dependent on the maintenance that you put into it in those first few years. The oil changes, the little dings that you get fixed versus you let them lie. Um, so the same thing is really the case with our body, that when we're young, we have a much longer leash. We can all think of things we did in our 20s and 30s that we can't get away with now. But as we get into our 70s, 80s, 90s, it's really dependent on what we were doing in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's the best predictor for how we're going to live those years. Nobody likes to bring their car and spend an afternoon at the shop, but these are the investments that we have to make to create longevity. And the same thing with the car, it's the same thing with our body, that, if we do want to live not only a long life in terms of quantity, but just being able to do the things that we want to do in our 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
Again, whether it's traveling, whether it's golfing, whether it's hanging out and keeping up with the grandkids, getting up and down from the floor. So much of that is dependent on, that preparation that we do in the years before.
I know you work with a lot of clients, and for so many of us, I think that, oh, if I had, yeah, before I had ACL surgery, so you're recovering from that, and that, well, I can't work out now because of that, or maybe I have sciatica and I can't work out, or maybe I'm, have arthritis or something like that. I know you work with a lot of people, injuries, surgeries. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I think in that you need to split it into two camps. There's kind of the pre-surgery and the post-surgery. One of the best predictors, one of the biggest variables for how you recover is what's your conditioning before the surgery. So, some people sometimes say, that they're not sure if they should start a program before or after. It can be a very helpful thing to start working out before the surgery. And it can help not only just in the speed of the recovery, but also just the smoothness of the recovery. There's fewer complications and all kinds of other, benefits to working out before. But even if you don't start before, there's benefits to working out after the surgery. Obviously, once you're cleared by the doctor and once you reach a certain point where you're able to handle resistance. And I'm thinking specifically of cases where if you have one joint or one side of the body, whether it's one shoulder, one knee replacement, if there's one leg that's being operated on, because if you don't fix it, there's going to be an imbalance. And the tendency is when you get out of a surgery, you want to get back to your life as quickly as possible. So what we end up doing is we end up favoring the strong side. And the longer we do that, the more of an imbalance it's going to create. I'm thinking, again, particularly with legs, if one leg is much stronger than the other, and suddenly, you lose your balance and you plant on the weaker leg that's recovering from the surgery and it hasn't been evened out with the other leg, suddenly that leg's going to be very weak and it might not be able to handle that load, and you can run the risk of falling or some other injury.
Right.
So before the surgery, I would say the benefit is to improve the recovery rate. But even if it's after the surgery, you want to make sure that, your body evens out again and reduce the risk of injury.
So I think that everyone's trying to really get their head around this, and I think comparatives are great. So the difference between your training sessions and someone going to the gym, what is it?
So I think one of the benefits of going into someone's home is that you can really see how they live and you can see what the struggles are and you can see, where they really want to improve. Maybe it's their flight of stairs in their house. Maybe it's, reaching up to a shelf. They used to be able to put the dishes away and now they're having a hard time. So one of the benefits of going into someone's house is that you can really customize a workout based on how they get through their day. And you get that immediate feedback. You can say, okay, let's do a couple stretches and let's try reaching up for the shelf again. Let's try going up your flight of stairs. Let's try getting up from your couch. So one of the great things about going into people's homes is that you can really, again, kind of create a workout that really mimics how they get through their day in a very real way and get real-time feedback.
So to give people kind of an understanding, just a 10,000 foot overview, but what's the process of how you work with people?
So the first step would be to do a free fitness assessment. The assessment is usually mostly talking. It goes about 45 minutes to an hour typically. It's really just a chance for us to figure out, who you are, what the issues are, any injuries, any medical conditions that we would have to work around, and obviously figure out what your goals are. We put you through a couple of tests at the end. Again, nothing too crazy, but the idea is that we can really put together a program for you that is based on your ability, your goals, and just what you like to do. So again, if somebody wants to be able to improve their golf game, but they've got arthritis in their shoulder, then we'll come up with a program that kind of helps you, hopefully loosen up the shoulder in whatever way we can, maybe strengthen the surrounding areas, and maybe work on some stuff, do some rotation exercises that might help with your golf game. So it starts out with that assessment. That's really the focal point of the program that comes after. We have a team of trainers so we can figure out, who's the best fit for you, again, based on these factors: where you live, what time of day you want to work out, and again, what are your goals and what are the things that you want to work on. So those are some of the things. That the sessions are usually about 45 minutes. We offer an hour also. But 45 minutes is usually enough. People are
Yeah.
usually tired. And, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, listen, this has been great. This has been fascinating. Being able to provide people with, different ideas and different options. And I hope that people that are watching this right now, if you see yourself in this, you can realize that there are other ways of getting fit and staying fit. And so, greatly appreciate your time. Listen, there's a question I ask everyone who's on the show. No obligation to this whatsoever, but if people did have questions or wanted to reach out, are you okay if we share your contact information here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Please feel free to share, and I'm happy to chat if anyone has any questions.
Sounds like you're one of those people like me that loves what they do. So, listen, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Randy.
All right, that's Moshe Schwartz from Gentle Motion. And again, if you have been informed, please like and or share this video. Until next time, I'm Randy Taylor. Have an amazing day and stay well.